Welcome to Redacted Episode 3. I'm your host, David Shaner, and I'm with my co-host, Taylor Kottner.
Hello.
Hello. So Redacted is a show about what it actually looks like to run a real company with AI in 2026. I'm workshopping how to introduce the show. So there's no theory, there's no reviews of the latest model. It's just me and Taylor ripping open our day-to-day work and showing what we built this week. Redacted is part of the Tweener media empire. And our producer at the Tweener media empire sent us some logos. So before we jump into what Taylor built this week and what I built this week, we figured it would be true to the Redacted ethos to just pull open the logos and pick one while we're on the air.
Okay. You should be able to see my screen now. 2 logos, slightly different colors for each version, left and right. The left one is like just describing for podcast people. It's a waveform with a couple pieces of tape on it. Like in the old days, super old days when you would hack up tape to like edit an album or a film or something. And I can make these larger if you want, because it's, Google is making them smaller. Or there's a version of this that is like literal, like old school kid scissors cutting through the tape, which this, I don't know. I like both of them a lot. Like I like the scissors, but I like the orange sideways redacted and the tape more than I like the scissors personally.
Yeah, this one's not close for me. I like the top left. Yeah, that one of the left, which is the more, modern looking, looks straight out of Nano Banana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. The color on color is a little, I don't know. I mean, I could also go for the beige background.
The later one.
Yeah, the scissors on the right-hand side look like clip art to me. It's offensive to my brand sensibility.
Yeah, I like the idea a lot of the scissors, but I think Becca just like killed it with the just the layout of this one looks just cool. Yeah, so
this one says Redacted, NC Tweener Talks show. So that's how I will eventually figure out how to introduce us. Cool. But yeah, I think that looks really good, and we can. We'll get this wired into the video broadcast.
Yeah, great. And Becca will be happy we did our homework.
That's right.
This week. So
we should just always do it when we're recording. That way we actually do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we will. All right.
What'd you build this week?
Let's jump into like a slight continuation of last week or last episode where we are taking like the problem that we were trying to solve is we have a large HubSpot database with tons of brands, and it's messy like every CRM database. And we've been trying to figure out a way to have an LLM help us clean it up. And we started with N8N last year. The models are not there. N8N was complicated. It would break all the time and you had to debug it, everything. And so what I've been working on for a while is, can I get it to basically copy N8N, but develop it locally so you can do like slightly more things and I'll show you a slide that I made in a minute about how I'm thinking about it, or how Claude made. But what I want to do is fire off a run of this with like one of our actual partners, and we just like kind of talk through it as it goes. I don't know what's going to happen because I've been changing things all day. And so we have this partner in South End of, I think maybe Charlotte, I would guess. No, there's one in Cary. I don't know. It just says Cary. So like, let's see. Let's open this up in HubSpot. We have a parent company. We have 2 sub companies, which is the problem. It's very messy. And like, these are not companies. These are just locations of a company. We have previous deals that we've worked with. We have contacts, people. And so if we like kind of dig into these other companies, we have this idea that we've been working with this one single entity across multiple duplicated companies. And that's not ideal for anybody, for a salesperson, for an LLM that's like searching for all the context to know what is going on. And so the pipeline now, I'm going to just run this. So I'm going to run it with the SDK because I've been messing with this today just to understand the costs of one of these, right? If it costs $15 to clean one up, like that's untenable. Like we either have to optimize it down or we just can't use the SDK to do it. So there is a flow kind of chart that I've made with Claude Code that I'll kind of go through what it's doing as it's going through it. So I'm going to click run this pipeline. It's going to pull this data from kind of like a local proxy. You could pull it from HubSpot, but it just burns tokens. And so I just made it pull it from a local proxy. I think we talked about this last week. What it's doing right now is it's doing some LLM web research, I think with Sonnet. And what it will do as it goes through, and you can stop me at any time because I have all of like the little prompts as we go. You can click on a box and you can see it's very much like N8N if you've used N8N or Zapier or whatever, right? It just felt more flexible for me and an LLM to work on it together than N8N does, because when you start working with N8N, like you either have to change them yourself. Their AI, I don't think is great from last time when we checked, or you have to build your own little N8N API tools because their MCP is also very limited, and but they have a great API. But you have to build your own like N8N coding harness or something, right? And so we've both done that, and it was just not working. So it correctly decided that this was a brand and it was not in need of a fan out where it was like a restaurant holding company or some other kind of restaurant group. And so there's a subflow. Again, you're just going to be like, Taylor, you built N8N again. And it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Is that showing you? So that's actually showing you on the expand cluster that cost 1.3 cents.
Yes, that's
so
right.
It's showing you live cost calculations so that you can start. So we're trying to answer this question of how expensive is it to have like a sentient HubSpot that is like always keeping itself up to date.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so you can see that the web search to like understand this brand costs 16 cents, pretty high actually. Right. Cause it's using, the web search tools from Claude. And we can talk about why later. The expand cluster is making sure that we don't have any more duplicate stuff in HubSpot. Because that original one gets everything that's linked to this little like graph that we have in here. But there could be other things hanging around, right? It's a CRM, so there could be some random company that wasn't linked to all of this. And that it needs a little bit of intelligence. That's why it's only 1 penny, right? Like it's, this could be as easily code but then you're talking about doing a regex, which, messy. Then there's some code to just kind of classify it a little bit more, do more web research just to make sure that it's got all the locations. The first one was like a really quick research to understand if it was part of a brand or a group. This one is making sure it finds everything pretty high, 70 cents. Like that's a lot in my opinion. But this is the biggest one because it's, it did 3 turns of very uncacheable system stuff. Like you can't cache, the prompt is already small and every turn it does, it's a different set of returns. So like you're not really able to like save money. Also this caching might be broken, but I'm not sure. Then we kind of like understand how it interacts with what we have in our system now, like the actual locations that we work with, which comes from our Rails backend. And then we have an architect making a plan. This is the most interesting one that I've stuck with for a long time. This outputs a before and after graph of here's what it was before and here's what it needs to get to after. And in a way that I'm trying to see what it does for this one. So it's making, again, we have this idea called restaurant locations. We have a bunch of deals, opportunities in sales parlance. It's going to want to merge all this together to make one ultimate thing. But it started with hey, I found this parent, I found this other company that's also kind of kind of a parent of this other one, and it knows it's wrong because we've given it our rules. We do need to change that into something that we can actually use later. And so we have another architect. Again, this seems kind of crazy, but this was working this week, whereas it's not worked before. That turns that little like ASCII parent-child plan into real things that this is really truly the smart part of this system, which says, hey, you're an agent and you have all these tools. You have HubSpot as a tool. You can go back and read the inputs of the architect changes. You can make the decisions as you go to fix it. And so if you merge two things and the ID for the company is not there, I don't need you to ask me. I need you to fix it. And so you can see that it's like going through lots of little mini turns. So it's at 45 turns right now, getting to like, again, the prompt is not very long. The prompt is mainly, here's how you use the HubSpot skills. And like we've made our own little mini MCP. All sounds very complicated, and a lot of it probably could be simplified. This was just the kind of way I got it to work. But this is just a way for the agent to know how to use the tools. And again, the way I think about these things is an LLM, you're just kind of sending it out and getting an answer back. There's no tools really. It's just like one or two turns. This agent is going to adjust itself on the fly and figure out when it hits something, how to fix it such that our offline's rules are met, where we don't have duplicate parents. We have all the like correct locations of the restaurants, all this stuff. I'm going to stop talking for a second and let this kind of go a little bit more. Do you have any questions, or do you want to see the like slide thing that I put together?
Let's see the slide.
Okay. So again, this is just what we did, right? We wanted to go from this before where there's duplicates, orphans, duplicate parent, to one very clean company with locations underneath it, and then everything in one spot. Because later, when we want a different agent to maybe answer an email or come up with an opportunity for this like holy moly place that's in Austin, it has all of the stuff it needs in one spot. And it doesn't have to go searching around HubSpot everywhere, right? That's like the ultimate goal. Maybe you can comment on like the vision ultimately that this is building on.
Yeah. So a couple things. One is that, each one of these indented holy moly Austin, holy moly ATX dupe, holy moly Round Rock. Each one of these is objects in our HubSpot database that are linked to this thing called holy moly parent. And I guess a question that also gets to the vision is like every single company in the world that has a CRM that has any material amount of information in it has this problem. It's all like I would bet almost all the money in my bank account that's true. Mm-hmm. No matter what you're selling, by the time you get to a couple thousand leads or 5 or 6 people working in HubSpot, this problem just starts to like emerge. And so I think maybe the big question is, how universal do you think this kind of solution is? And like, where do you think this particular application of AI is going to go? Because like, I fully believe that this is the way that you have to solve it today. Like you have to build all of this stuff from scratch to achieve this, which is kind of crazy, right? Like,
it's kind
HubSpot
of crazy. Should have this in some way.
Like you have a graph database essentially. Well, not really, but you have a graph visualization. Yeah. We have a version of N8N. There's lots of different prompts. Some of it's customized to our business because the particulars like restaurant groups. I'm just fascinated that this is the shape of this solution. I think when we sat down to start working on like how do we clean up our CRM, I don't think any of us knew what kind of mess we were stepping into and how hard it would be. Like it's really hard.
I would assume that if we had like somebody from HubSpot product, they'd be like, you don't need to do this. Like we have this for you. And then we would get on and we'd be like, yeah, cool. This does. And again, I don't know. I would bet it would do 50% of what we need. And then the other 50%, it would just like have no idea. Or it would be so much money that we as offline couldn't afford it. Like
if there's a way to get somebody from HubSpot product on Redacted, if anybody knows, I don't know how much junk we have to talk to bait somebody to come talk about this. I think I'll just say I think HubSpot can't do this with workflow. Like even if you bought all the upgrades, I think you'd build all these different workflows. I think it would be a tangled mess trying to recreate it in there, and you would still have to shop it all out to an LLM somehow. I mean, the LLM's the thing that's doing all the work. So you'd be going in and out of HubSpot. Maybe another way of saying it is maybe you can stitch it together in HubSpot, but then Claude can't really help you do it. And I think that's how we arrived here anyway, is that the reason we're on localhost, the reason all this is happening locally and not on N8N or anywhere else is because Claude isn't effective at those surfaces right now. It's like so token heavy, just getting in and out of those places. By the time you deal with that, it's even harder, right?
Yeah, and like there's a piece of this that there is no source of truth that is actually able to provide what we need, which is a brand graph of the restaurant industry. Like
that's true.
You can't even make that with Google Places and SERP and Yelp, because the way that their searches work, they don't work such that you can recreate their entire database locally. I'm working on using that stuff on some of these other spots, but Google Places returns like the top 20 things based on whatever. So if a restaurant location, like one of our locations, the Flying Biscuit, has 44 restaurants across the country. So you need to break that down in a different way. Like maybe only search the cities that we care about, and maybe that will get you the right like world. But you can't just search Google Places for give me all the Flying Biscuits. So you need to do something.
A brand graph, like no matter what industry you're in, the source of truth is like, what is the ultimate graph of that industry? That's what you're comparing everything to. And it just doesn't exist for restaurants, which makes it,
I don't think so. Like hard. Maybe I should spend all my time looking for that instead of doing this. Let's check on this. All right. So this says it's done. A lot of tokens, but a lot of cash, 95% cash, which is very good. Like that costs $1 to clean up. To me, that's worth it. The other dollars, maybe not as worth it. So if we go to this parent one and refresh it, I'm hoping that we don't see, no companies, one single thing. We have 3 contacts that were merged from the other companies. You got 2 merges in HubSpot already. You got all the deals, which came from the merges. You have the 2 restaurant locations that used to be other companies. And I would guess that we're working with both. And so we didn't need to populate what we call a restaurant event, which is essentially like a version of a lead, for example. So this like makes me happy. And then what it also does is it doesn't work great. This cleaned up my local proxy too. So that when I run this again, it's going to be like, you don't need to, like we stamped this one clean, you're good. And so like this worked. It took $1.98, right, to clean up this one restaurant with 2 locations. If you look at the time added up, like we've been talking for like 17 minutes. So, I mean, this is the kind of crazy, this is what a human would have taken, if not longer, to like reconcile this thing. And then imagine doing one with a restaurant group with 10 brands with 10 restaurants in each brand. You're talking about hours of someone's time it's probably not much longer than this 20 to 30 minutes for this one.
Yeah, that was a nice live demo. That was really cool.
Man, I'm so stressed out. 64 turns. I'm going to show you one more slide. And I did this of why not? This is like basically why would you just not build it on N8N or something? So what I'm showing on the screen right now is a slider where there you have the pros on the left side of the code drives the whole process, and the agent drives the process on the right side. So as you drag this slider, you have pros and cons, nothing but trade-offs, right? Changing stuff to where if you go to the code side, yeah, fully deterministic, cheap, trivial to test, but you can't handle any ambiguity, like whatsoever, which is this problem, which is like, is this the right boba and carry or not? It's not possible, but you can't also then go to the right side because like, this might be wrong. Like maximum flexibility should be like crossed off here. So this was like a 5-minute thing, but like you get the idea that like you're making tons of trade-offs, like costs more, no stable contract, runs diverge. You have to do something in the middle. And my prediction is that N8N, not prediction, but like my like feeling is N8N is too close to the code side by just enough where it's just hard enough to run that and develop on that. Maybe it would be easy to convert what I'm doing to N8N now that it's done. Maybe not. And we're living here, which is slightly right of middle, where it's like you have easy to debug because it's local, it reads live state between writes, but it requires more schema design up front, more moving parts than a pure pipeline, costs more to run. So these are not actually like pros and cons of the like continuum, right?
Yeah, this is really useful because it does capture the problem, I think, really well. And I think it captures the problem industry-wide that everybody's trying to figure out. What's the balance between deterministic and probabilistic? And I think you could absolutely take what, just to like give N8N its flowers. Like you could take what you just showed me and you could now stick it in N8N. The problem is that then when you want to tweak it or you want to investigate why a run failed, you have to pull down like a 1 million token, like giant N8N flow with all the data appended to it and all this stuff. So what I was having to do at the limit with N8N is I had a daily loop that would pull down all the runs from the night before and save them locally so I could use grep to like find stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The local proxy, right? Like,
yes. Every time I'd hit the MCP, it was like, oops, there goes, 28,000 tokens for like one call. Yeah. So no, this is really, really, really cool. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I'll leave it at this slide. There's more, but this slide is my favorite slide that I've made in a long time. This interactive thing.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I was thinking, I'll go in a second. But what I was thinking is I keep wanting to say like, we'll put that in the show notes, and I'm like, we need show notes. We need somewhere for somebody to put that, for you to put that slide.
Yeah, we need to host it somewhere. I can throw it on my like Cloudflare or something so people can mess with it. Put a comment section at the bottom.
Yeah, and if you want to buy Taylor's Sentient HubSpot, you can join the waitlist for that.
Like one more thing, like you and I worked together a little bit this week on another thing. I'm not going to do it, but I do want to show you that, like, where did it go? This one, this like qualify one, this was a one shot, like taken from HubSpot, taken from N8N that you built because it's not as complicated, moved into here, and it just worked. So this is one of those ones where it's like, this one's way harder to decide. Like I would just put this back on N8N because I don't think you get anything by having this run on whatever whatever we're going to do. This was so easy to get going on here because it's really just the prompts. It's just 2 agents where it's like 50-50 to me. Like, I don't think I'm doing the cost for this one, but I mean, if the cost was 3 pennies, maybe I would keep it on the same infrastructure. But there's just like a little note that like there is a world where this N8N spot right here does make sense, and you have to overlay the like business outcome on some level on this thing to even know if the pros and cons are a good trade-off to moving, right? Like, I think there's like another dimension to this graph in my head where it's like, yeah, you know what? I'd probably put the qualification engine on N8N because like then we don't need to change it. It's not going to change at all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess the benefit that I have is having babysat those flows for
Yes,
4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And where the cost shows up, like the dimension that after the call, you can drop this transcript in and tell Claude to update the slide is how much kind of manager time is required every time something breaks.
Yeah.
And I think that's what ends up happening is that you or someone like you has to go in and debug it. And then when you have to debug it from N8N, it's just harder. And when you have to fix it on N8N, it's harder. And so I think what we'd have to look at is what's the cost per run locally, what's the cost per run in N8N. You know, like what N8N gives you is kind of infinite uptime. That's maybe the counter punch.
Yes.
But gosh, man, like debugging sucked. It was really painful. And pushing up new nodes, and it would forget N8N's formatting. N8N would push an update and it would change.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not saying N8N is for me when AI is sprinkled into the process and it's very static, like N8N works really well. I think when AI is the main driver, it maybe gets a little wonky because you're kind of just hosting an LLM somewhere.
Yep.
All right.
Let
me catch you up.
What you got?
So just to tie off the investor update piece. So this is the accountability chart, right? So if I zoom way out, this is offline circa 2024, right? It's a big old accountability chart. What I started doing for fun is annotating this. So you can see fundraiser and investor relations now has a little AI tag on it because I've applied some AI. And if I open up this little sidebar, my shareholder update now says it's been AI-ified. So if I click in here, this is now this is a shareholder skill. I'm just looking at it in Finder because that was the fastest way to navigate. But again, this is something I'd like put in the show notes if anybody wanted to inspect how this works. So I've got the main skill, which is going to be tiny and nobody even you is going to be able to read it, but it's, it's a sequential, one of these like super skills, right? And then this is sort of how I've been structuring the skills. I know you and I have talked about this. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but like, what's the context? So this is the stuff that the skill ingests, right? Like it needs these raw ingredients. And then the data is the outputs. So I can see data runs Q1 2026, draft email, and like this is the actual email, and this is the email that I sent. And I think I had shown this last time, but I literally only had to make like 2 or 3 changes to this, like word changes. It wasn't even it wasn't hard at all. And then this takes me all the way through to the sending, the documentation of the sending, the updating of the Google Sheets, where I kind of host like a little mini CRM for all the investors. And it just ties the whole thing off. So this is one of those things where I'd love, like if anybody listening to this is a founder or does shareholder updates or does anything like this, and I can get this in some sort of hosted format, I'd love to like have somebody be able to just poke through this if they want to. The other 2 folders are prompts. So I always expose the prompts as their own thing so I can QA them. It's a pretty short prompt really, right? Like, cause this is the ultimate thing that the LLM ingests to write the email. It's not very long. The skill is so long because you have to start with a blank canvas of like, what the heck happened this quarter? And you have to end with an email. So you got to go get caught up. Right. So, all right, I've spent a lot of episodes on this. I just wanted to tie it off. So the next thing that I'm super pumped about is I started working on a B2B landing page. And I'll just show the punchline here at the end, and then I'll walk backwards. But this was my first chance to use Claude Design. I was really freaking impressed with Claude Design.
Okay.
I was skeptical. I was like, oh, it's just a wrap. Like I can get the same out of Claude code, but it validates for me like how when a really good team can get in there and they can kind of put a design harness around. It's the same model, but like they're putting this nice harness around it, and like the outputs are really, really good. So zooming out on this, what do I want to talk about? What I want to talk about is that normally when you're doing a landing page, if I go back to my accountability chart, I actually think it's like one of the hardest, a really good landing page is one of the hardest cross-functional things for a startup to execute. And I'm going to zoom out and in this accountability chart, because you end up having to have like 5 people in the room usually. Like you have to have the founder or founders. You have to have somebody from the sales side, because they're kind of the voice of the customer, right? They tell you, oh, the customer, yeah, people are saying this, people are saying that. Like this is the messaging they're reacting to. You have to have someone in there from a copywriting and brand perspective, because somebody has to write the actual words that go on the page. On our team, we would also have Rami in there because we were so cheap. Like he would be the one that would try to build it in Webflow, right?
Yeah, right.
and then we would have design. We'd have Dream 10 like polish it. And so when you add up all the hours and all the different brains that had to be involved to get something really good at the end, actually ends up being really tricky. And so this has been one of my favorite things to reinvent with AI, because it's so cross-functional. So the way that it started is like, okay, well, the best place for voice of customer is not Steve. It's not our salespeople, because they're going to tell you what the customer said that week, right? They're going to try to tell you what the customer's been saying for the last 6 months, but like everybody has recency bias, right? And so what I had Steve give me is a export of Fathom. So this is 876 Fathom transcripts from the last couple of years. And I went into Claude and built this thing called front matter classifier. And so what this came in is it did a quick like haiku run on the transcript, and it said, okay, we're gonna look at meeting type. Was this a sales meeting, an expansion call, onboarding, churn? Because we want to isolate sales. And then who was in the room? Was it a GM? Was it a PR person? We want the owners. And then what products were we discussing, right? And so that allowed me to get a cross section of sales calls where we were selling offers to owners, right? And so then we took let me show you what a tagged one looks like. So what it did is it just added this little front matter chunk to the transcript. So it just went in and modified the transcript and added this to the front of it. So that like then an LLM can now scan that whole corpus and easily isolate different things, right? Okay. So next was panel by panel copy extraction. So let me see if I can, my little click thing is broken. So I'm gonna have to actually search for this one. Okay. So you got raw transcripts. You isolate the ones you want, and then the output is this really slick landing page, which means at some point, the final structure of the copy and the design has to match what you tell the copywriter. Okay. So like I can't just have a copywriter go in and say, give me landing page copy, because that could be anything, right? What I had to do at some point is drill in and say, okay, this is what's actually going to be on the page. So here's who you are, right? You're a VP of marketing, blah, blah, blah. Here's the current landing page. So I gave it the baseline of the copy. And then I said, read each transcript for each panel, evaluate the current copy, and tell me, does the transcript reinforce it? Does it contradict it? Well, and if it's not good enough, draft me a new alternative. And then here's the confidence tiers. So act on it means it's happened in 6 meetings. pattern is 4 to 5, emerging is 1 to 3. So it just kind of went through all these transcripts, and I had it go sequentially, starting with the oldest one, just like a human would. If a human sat in on 20 meetings, they would sit in on one meeting, form some opinions, sit on the second one, update their opinions. So it went all the way through it, and it built out a really robust library of copy. And then
you define these competence tiers, right? Like, yes. This skill is like, not Claude, make me a skill to make a landing page builder. This is, hey, use our existing one, which we spent a lot of time, thinking through. And then here's how I want you to determine whether or not the copy is good or bad.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's, it's not like rocket science. It's basically, if we use 20 interviews as the input, I think act on it was 6+. So it's like about a third. If about a third of the interviews, there's a recurring theme. And then this was really important, was saying, hey, when you're writing, I want you to suggest a candidate for a headline, a subheadline, a value prop page with 3 bullets. So I was starting to kind of define this output needs to be able to eventually fit into a design, right? And I want these kinds of panels. Like, I don't want you to go out and make like a, just launch panel. I want a problem panel. I want a value prop panel. I want a how it works panel. I want a who's the crowd panel, right? Okay. Yep. So once this took a little while to run, because the file grew and grew and grew and grew as it iterated through those 20 interviews. But what ended up happening here is I put it all in a chat, right? And what I had was a lot of I had a lot of suggestions for headline. I had a lot of suggestions for subheadline. I had a lot of suggestions for value prop. And instead of overdoing how to synthesize all that, I just went to Opus and I said, hey, there's a lot of ideas in here. Some have high confidence, some have less. I want you to go ahead and take all these ideas and take a stab at a full cohesive, because this is the key. It's got to be cohesive. It's got to take, well, they're suggesting all these headlines, all these subheadlines, but how do you pair that together so that it flows? And how does that flow into the next one, flow into the next one? And so what it did is it outputted essentially a little, wireframe in here. Yeah. Right. Okay,
that's cool.
And so now I've got the copy boxed into the format that it'll end up in. And so I started workshopping it from here. I was like, this is how it works. Things a little convoluted. So I have this workshop back and forth with Claude. And then I said, okay, we got a final layout, stash it in a file for me, like a markdown file. And that's when I finally went to Claude Design. And like, you'll see this conversation was not very long. I literally pasted in the 318 line output from Claude Code. I answered some questions and that was it. Okay. And now I've got these like 3 directions, A, B, and C. And it allows me to really like that. Does that copy like punch me in the face? Like, do I feel something when I read it? And it's so different when you see it on a page. Like, and what's cool about Claude Design is it said, hey, I'll do a wireframe for you. Do you want it to be hand-drawn? Do you want it to be clean? Do you want it to be pure black and white? Or do you want one highlighter? So I asked it for like clean black and white with one highlighter so I could really feel the emphasis on some of the lines. But I really like this headline. Get found by foodies who are paying to find you. It gets around the #1 objection in this space, which is like, is this just some cheap deals thing that is free for everybody? The fact that our members are paying, and you know how long we've worked on copy for offline, like a decade. Yeah. And I've never seen a headline like this ever from anybody on our team. So the output, including me, the output that we're getting is, I'm like, man, this is good. Like, I like the way, your content gets shot for you, like stop paying for clicks, how it works, the math, the demographics. And then down here at the bottom, this got cut off a little bit, but look at this. Sign today, show up in the app this week, launch next Thursday.
You know what's crazy about this?
That's
is like
compelling.
I know our salesperson, Steve, And this is, if you talk to him for 30 minutes, he'll say everything on this page because that's what everybody is talking to him about. And that's what's crazy is like Steve's goal is to sign somebody and get them launched in the app within a week.
Yes.
And and you're right. Like no one has ever come up with that idea, me, you, like, and nobody, and put it on a landing page and been like, well, that's like what people want. They want to solve their problems in a week for no money.
Yes. No, I was
cool.
like, I was blown away. And like the direction one has like an even cooler calculator. So it kind of experimented, right? Where you could come in and put in your restaurant type and we could kind of run some numbers for you and link out to case studies. And, here's a case study slide. So just like the Design Lab plugin I was using before in Claude Code, it allows you to kind of bind, here's the things I don't want you to explore, and then here's maybe the 2 or 3 I do want you to explore, and it gives you 3 different variations that that do exactly that. So I thought this was just like super, super cool. And if I had to wall clock the time on this, I would guess it was maybe 15 hours, maybe 20 hours, which if you divide that into the 5 people that would have had to be involved, you get a maximum of 3 hours per person. I mean, it's just like impossible. You would never. So higher quality of output, fewer people involved, feels like kind of a perfect harness for AI. And so now what I get to, maybe follow up on next week or the week after is now we got to apply Offline's design to it. And we got to ship it and get real imagery and all that wired up. But I think the positioning and the copy and all that is like usually the hardest part. I think what I was thinking about before the pod is that like as really good design or like passable design gets commoditized because the models can do it. I think one of the things that's still a little difficult is positioning and copywriting. And like we're lucky we have 879 sales calls that we can draw on from one person. If you don't have that, it's a lot harder. Like you're just taking a stab in the dark. So I think for companies that have this really good resource laying around in these calls, I mean, you could do this like today. So another one of these things that I'd love if we had show notes, like here's all the prompts and how we did this, just in case somebody wants to copy paste.
Yeah. Well, that'll be our homework this week is to figure out how to do that. Because I know this is the 3rd episode, and they're going to start coming out. Like we've recorded a bunch before that started, and I know Becca wants to start getting these out. So by the time this one comes out, there will be show notes. This is me, past Taylor, telling you, future listener. We'll figure it out.
Taylor will solve a Wordle and it'll just generate show notes.
Come to the meeting. Oh, it's too late. I can't actually even say that. It's next week. Cool. I'm excited to see like where this goes, because then like the design part is also the next like logical piece to be like, well, now let's do this with user landing pages and see how that does.
Totally. So yeah, sky's the limit. All right, man. Any closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so. This is very cool.
All right. Yeah, it is Friday. So let's get after it. All right, man. I'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
All right.